afternoon. It's about 4:30, the way I see the clock from here. And it's a call to order for our CAMPO meeting for February 12th, 2025. First thing is roll call. Chair Greg Novak here.
Chair Novak? You're here. Vice Chair Maloney?
Here.
Member Bagwell? Member Casanelli?
Here.
Member Dodson?
Here.
Member Schutte?
Here.
Member Erb?
Here.
Ex officio member Sandra Rosenberg?
Rebecca Capular here for Sandra Rosenberg.
Thank you. A quorum's present.
All righty. We'll start out with number 3, our public comment. Public's invited at this time to comment on any and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public body. First time. Any public comments? Round 1? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move right along. Item 4A, possible action of the approval of the minutes for our January 8th, 2025 meeting. No.
Move approval of the minutes.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, they're approved. All right. Item 5A. Let's see where we get here. For possible action, this one, discussion and possible action regarding setting annual safety performance targets for 2025 as required by the Federal Highway Administration regulations. And I guess, Ms. Norman, you've got that? Kelly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner. CAMPO supported the Nevada State Safety Performance Targets set annually by the Nevada Department of Transportation since 2021. The Nevada State Safety Performance Targets for 2023, 2024, and 2025 are condensed into a table in Exhibit 1. CAMPO staff continue to track CAMPO's fatalities and serious injuries as seen in Exhibit 2. The state's safety performance targets are published annually in the Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP. The latest published online is from 2023, and that's seen in Exhibit 3. Data from the 2024 HSIP was shared with all the Nevada MPOs in November of 2024, and the memo can be referenced in Exhibit 4. I'll also note this memo describes the methodology used to determine the state safety performance targets, the same methodology used by CAMPO staff to calculate CAMPO's safety performance targets that are updated in the annual network monitoring report. Staff recommend CAMPO support the Nevada State Safety Performance Targets for 2025.
Okay, do we have any discussion or comments? There was quite a bit of material in the packet, and as I looked through it, I didn't really have any problem with the goals. Their targets, they're fine. It's just we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
Other than that,
I was going to say, is there really nothing we can do to help drive it down versus saying that our targets are worse than our actual prior year? I guess I have concern about that and I recognize you're on the hook. Poor Rebecca's over there. Thanks, Mayor. But we're not going in the right direction. What can we do? Anything? I mean,
I'm sorry, I was reading a text. Can you reframe your question or
sure, I
repeat
think
it?
Even the chair, I think what we're concerned about, it's not that we're not willing to adopt these targets, but when we look at it over prior years, it's going in the wrong direction, right? It's like, yikes.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's alarming for us too. And I think the best thing that we can do is keep trying to plug away and knowing that they're targets and have the same goal and work together as a team and try to reach them. I think that's important. I hope you guys concur with that too.
yeah, I think we all agree on that, but, looking at the numbers, I also saw for 23, there was 390 fatalities, and 24, the preliminary number is 412. And the other part that I really didn't like, I saw it in the report at one point, if safety is number one, why did you transfer $11 million out of the safety program into other NDOT needs? And I think the goal for me is to spend safety money on safety projects. There's quite a bit of safety data, safety consultants, safety analysis, but at some point, we've got to do some safety things on the road. So that's,
You're absolutely right, and I can talk about this now or at my update, but we do have a call for projects right now for our safety funding, our HSIP funding, and that is something that locals, MPOs, or different agencies can apply for to look at reducing the serious injury, crashes, and fatalities on your local roadways. So that if that's something that this group wants to look at in CAMPO applying for, you can definitely do that. Lacey Tisler and Kim Goodwin are the two contacts for that. And I believe the application process is open through mid-March, but I can confirm that date and I'll add that later. And all the information's on our website, and I believe Chris has been informed of that too. So that's a really good opportunity for you guys to be able to apply for and get those HSIP funds to be used right here in your community.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments? Lucia?
I think it's important to recognize, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important to recognize the work that staff are doing. I think the approval of the local road safety plan, this board and the RTC board and our local partners trying to find balance between maintaining roads and building non-motorized options that get people safely off the road and minimize conflicts. I think those things are important, and we're doing what we can here at CAMPO.
Any other comments at this point?
Yeah, if we can just, in terms of, the targets and really looking at our driver behavior and to revisit that as well. And we spoke to that quite a bit last year during this conversation. And we also spoke, about the vulnerable users and the high rate of pedestrians being hit. And so, yeah, back to the safety comment, I think that's really incredibly important, but that remind drivers to be aware, to be looking not only for other vehicles, not only for motorcycles, but for bicyclists and walkers and riders and all the above.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. One of our trends for 2024, we're showing that speeding and impairment is still one of the highest results of the crashes. We also saw an increase in motorcycle fatalities this year compared to 2023. So you guys are not wrong that these are very alarming. Our pedestrian fatalities are really high. I work very closely with the Office of Traffic Safety with NBACs, and they do a lot of safety stuff with our Highway Safety Improvement Plan. I'm happy to let you know that I just learned earlier this week that they're revisiting the Zero Fatality campaign, and they're interviewing a lot of folks to hear what's important for Nevada residents themselves, and maybe that messaging needs to be looked at and changed, and they're diving in deeply. So I'm one of the folks they're interviewing. I don't know who all they're interviewing through the Office of Traffic Safety, but that has a lot to do with the messaging and how to get that education and outreach out there, just as you mentioned. So I appreciate you bringing that up too.
Okay, and one reason we're kind of discussing this is CAMPO is adopting the statewide goal, and you have bigger safety issues elsewhere. We realize that, but we'll do our part, and I know we're going to apply for everything we can.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm glad you guys are a good partner because I've been doing this a long time. I don't want to say to over 26 years, and safety and vulnerable users have been dear and near to my heart, and complete streets and all of that. So I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, do I have a motion from anybody? Oh,
Public comment.
public comment, all right. I'll learn it.
Denny French, Carson City. Thank you, Chair and members. Denny French, Carson City, I'm sorry. Shouldn't apologize for my blips. They're going to happen too often. I can't use my 3 minutes on them. But you understand that it's not intent to hold you up or slow you down. I just was reading the paper this morning and, well, actually early, RTC to consider safe routes contract incorporating the high school. I would like you not to consider a road through Mills Park as an alternative. It should not be even put on the map. Lisa, Supervisor or Schutte had mentioned in a Nevada Now or an article that I read, didn't want it to be used or was concerned that it might be used as a shortcut. And the dangers that we're putting people in that park, I think, are higher than are being considered. And I would really like you all to consider that. As I read this article and was ready to cut it out, I also wanted to suggest that in the obituary, a gentleman was in a one-car accident and he passed away from the injuries. Now, not knowing what the conditions were on that day or his particular set of mood or whatever circumstances, I can't tell you if it's a road issue or a driver issue or what, but we're vulnerable out there, whether behind the wheel or in front of a car. So I just want to urge everybody on this board to all those considerations. I don't even have to encourage you to consider, because I think you are, but as a person that's driving more, my attention has to be on the road. And while I was a pedestrian, my attention had to be on not only the street, but what those people might do to get off the street to get where I was. So alert, please everybody stay alert. And with this weather changes, watch for ice as well. Doesn't always show itself well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Are there any other comments on this agenda item? I think RTC after this will be discussing some safety items as well. Okay,
Then I move to support the Nevada State Safety Performance Targets for 2025.
Second.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. All
Was
right.
that Member Bagwell that seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty. Let me get the right item here. All right. Item 5B for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding contract number 253-00288 with Parametrics, Inc. for the Carson Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Unified Planning Work Program Staff Support Services Project for a total not to exceed amount of $207,500. Ms. Norman, you're back up again?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner. CAMPO staff released the request for qualifications for the UPWP Staff Support Services Project on October 22nd, 2024. The RFQ was open until November 19th, 2024. Staff received one respondent, Parametrics, who was deemed successful to fulfill the requirements within the scope, which is outlined in Exhibit A of the contract within Exhibit 1 on packet page 83. That's the start of the scope. The scope consists of an update to the CAMPO 2050 RTP and an update to the JAC Coordinated Human Services Plan with assistance from Parametrics. And this plan, both of these plans are expected to be completed by January 2026.
I'll start off again. I think the main reason we're here is CAMPO, the MPO, is for a regional transportation plan, right? It's time to update ours. And I guess there's some other updates underway in the area. I think Tahoe's doing theirs and Reno as well. So I think one of the aspects you'll probably wind up coordinating with them to find out what's going on. But again, I didn't have any problem with the overall description, and looks like you're right on target for getting things done and using all the recent work, the corridor studies, and the ongoing things. So with that, any other questions or comments on this necessary item? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kelly, I just had a couple of comments. One, you talk about establishing a prioritization process. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we already have some prioritization processes. And I guess my concern would be an overall prioritization because of the different funding categories, different types of projects. I'm assuming that's not what you had in mind, maybe looking at some other areas where the prioritization isn't as well defined as what we've got all. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what CAMPO will most likely do is review Carson City's pavement management plan and their prioritization process for managing pavement projects. And also be advised by NDOT and the One Nevada plan and their prioritization process. We have to prioritize with CAMPO not only Carson City projects, but projects from Douglas County and Lyon County. And we have to meet with both of those counties to understand how their priorities fit into their prioritized projects, and then outline a prioritization process by which we can then prioritize projects that could be funded near term or farther out.
Okay. Could I make one other comment? With regard to the JAC plan, there was a study that was done and presented to the RTC board in August of 2021, which took a look at maybe some alternatives of the existing routes, made some suggestions. And I always felt that that was a good study because it did not look to expand necessarily the services, but that maybe it would reach serve more people in that plan. And I would hope that, elements of that would be looked at as this work is carried forward.
I appreciate your comments, and we will definitely reference that plan, and that given the restraints of the budget, and look for increasing the ridership as much as possible, given the restraints that we have.
Right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, this is an update to our current plan, and I think reviewing those priorities in light of growth, census data, aging of the population, funding or not, or lack of funding. We're gonna have to try and make some decisions there. But I don't have any problems with moving forward with this. Any other comments or questions? Oh, let's see.
Thank you. I have no problem with parametrics. I know they do great work. My question is a broader question. The contract for over $200,000 theoretically could fund 2 additional planners plus benefits. Is there so much work on the transportation team that we need to contract out this amount of money for CAMPO staff to complete the core documents? And is that something that we should be having a broader discussion about as CAMPO and RTC go into budgeting season? Or is this a one-off thing? And just as a broader discussion point, this is a lot of budget for what I view as core elements of our planning mandate. So was there a reason that we needed to go out to bid for support services because staff were doing other things maybe this year and this is a one-time thing, or is this an indication of a broader need for more staff?
I'll jump in on this one. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. The culmination to do this contract in the combination of the RTP and the Coordinated Human Services Plan and the dollar amounts associated with this I should say, that these 2 activities culminated in occurring in the same year. And so that's a sort of a heavy lift for us to do these 2 major documents, required documents at the same time. And so we were looking for support to not only do the individual documents, but also do the public outreach associated with the effort and getting that feedback so we can update them and to reflect what you all want as a board and what the community wants as well. So I think it's generally a one-off is my thought process here. And I think we've talked about what can we use consultant support, what can we do in-house. We're going to be doing a lot of this writing, excuse me, a lot of this writing in-house on the RTP, and parametrics is really going to be focusing on helping us with the data collection, reviewing some other documents, best practices, changes in federal policy and things like that, so that we can create a more comprehensive update to both of these plans. So it's a large lift. It's important. It's a lot of dollar amount, and these two documents definitely require a large dollar amount.
I appreciate that response. Thanks, Chris. And as I've said before, I'm very supportive of more translations and more things being able to be distributed to more people in our community. So I was pleased to see that too. Thank you.
I think the overall, idea would be you guys do as much as you can with staff and hire consultants when you really need to. And, just to reiterate, get as much NDOT input as you can, because most of the major roads in Carson City, Campo area are NDOT roads. So, we need to have them online as well with everything and work with your ongoing program. Okay, do I have a motion?
Public comment.
Oh, more public comment.
You'll get used to
I
it.
get used to it. All right. I'll listen to public comment. Do we have any on this item? Yes?
I don't know where we're at in the meeting, because I kind of came in the middle of it. But I presume we're talking about the future of the transportation.
Yeah, we're updating the transportation plan with consultant help.
I'm Dee Dee Formaster. I'm from the Rural Center for Independent Living. I'm here because I have a couple of concerns. Number one, I think we need to have a bus stop in the area where my office is. Advocates in Domestic Violence is also over there, and also the Dream Center. The closest bus stop is about, I'd say, a mile away, over near Food Mart. And it's extremely hard for my disabled clients to be able to walk from Food Mart all the way up to my office, and also from Food Mart over to the Dream Center, and then carry all their groceries from the Dream Center all the way back to the bus stop. And so it's been a concern of mine for the last 5 years, and I keep showing up and saying the same thing over and over again, and no one listens to me. So, and my other major concern is, of course, with the disability passes, the little yellow cards, people don't know where in the hell to find them. And so when they get to my office, I have to explain, okay, you have to get off on the bus on Division Street and walk to the city offices to be able to get a little yellow pass. And you have to have an awards letter. Now, a lot of people, let's be real, I'm sure there's people in this room who have disabilities and do not have an awards letter. I happen to be one of them who have several disabilities. I do not collect Social Security disability. Okay? So there's a lot of people who have back injuries, a lot of people who have COPD, who are on oxygen, who, you know, and there's no awards letters. There just isn't. Because it takes 5 months or longer to get on disability. So I'm asking that the little yellow cards be more accessible than they are, because they're not. And also that,
Yep.
I'm out of time.
Yep.
So that's what I need. Thanks.
Okay, we got your comments. Thank you. Any more comments? Mark?
Good afternoon. My name's Mark Costa, Carson City resident. I thought I heard this in discussion with the supervisors and with Kelly, but I wanted to go ahead and emphasize this about the NDOT One Nevada State Plan. I would recommend that we leverage that as much as possible for that. Not only is it the state plan, but there is a lot of work done in terms of prioritization, which people expressed interest in. Yes, there is a prioritization process, but I think it can be more formalized, maybe along the lines of NDOT, or if we have a disagreement with that, we can go ahead and form our own plan for that. I think it's very important, too, that this prioritization process and part of this plan becomes very, very transparent, perhaps putting it on the website all the time in the prioritization, so people can go ahead and see, you know, why a particular project is being started in one area, but another project is being held off. And I think there's ways to go ahead and do that and take advantage of our situation that we have to go ahead and make our own plan, but leverage what's already been created. And that might also help address or minimize some of the contractor costs that we express concern about. You know, $200,000 is a lot for plans that already exist and plans that we're just updating anyhow. So, thank you.
Do I see any other public comment at this point? All right, I'll accept the motion.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. I'd like to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next item, Chris, our transportation manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. Wanted to start out, I have a number of items today under this agenda item. Wanted to start out with Transportation Lobby Day, which was held last Tuesday on February 4th. It was a really good turnout. All four of the MPOs and NDOT were in attendance. We all had our little tables and setups and giveaways and things. A number of other consultants and you know, transportation providers and service providers and transit agencies and a lot of other stakeholders were in attendance as well. Thought it was well received by those who stopped in and checked it out. The food was good at the legislature too, so I appreciated that. Later that afternoon, I presented at the Assembly Growth and Infrastructure Committee on what CAMPO is, what we do, what Carson City RTC is, our funding limitations and challenges, and our priorities from a local and legislative, federal, state, local perspective. The following day, I presented to the Senate Growth and Infrastructure Committee on basically the same topic. And I think generally it was well received. A lot of the focus was obviously on NDOT and Southern Nevada, but I did get some questions at the Senate Growth and Infrastructure. So that was good. Furthering the cause of transportation and our needs and how we all relate. Of particular note is what Southern Nevada RTC is doing on their fuel revenue indexing. They're asking to extend that. If that doesn't pass, their fuel indexing will decrease. They will no longer have that indexed fuel, resulting, in my understanding from their presentations, was a loss of about $200 million per year, which while isn't directly affecting us, it could affect us indirectly with more state dollars being transitioned to other areas. So we want that to pass. We want that to pass across all of Nevada if that's possible as well. Related to other federal funding items, I know there's been a lot of discussion in the news. We've been trying to coordinate with our state partners at NDOT and our federal partners at both Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration on what is happening, what's the next steps, what's the feeling out there. In coordination with the Federal Transit Administration, they've said continue business as usual. They'll continue to reimburse us through our reimbursement process for our transit grants, so no change there at this point. On the Federal Highway Administration, we heard this afternoon that they're going to continue their process, specifically one of our grants, which I'll mention in the RTC agenda, under the RTC agenda item, will continue to move forward and continue to be paid. So right now, there is no real change in direction, although we are taking some small steps to make sure we're kind of covering ourselves, looking at monthly invoices instead of quarterly invoices and things like that to try to stay ahead to limit the liability the city or CAMPO would be out. So hopefully those actions are going to proceed and we'll get more approvals to do monthly invoicing over the quarterly invoicing. Other items we're working on currently more locally as our US 50 Phase 2 study continues. Yesterday, Kelly and I met with the county commission, county manager, Andrew, as well as Commissioner Casanelli and Commissioner Hendricks on what Lyon County kind of would like to see out there. And so it was really just a listening. Went out there with our thoughts and really wanted to hear what Lyon County's concerns were for the US 50 corridor, how it coordinates with what NDOT's looking at it doing out there as well. And we've released a public survey on that, so if you're interested, we can get that information. It should be up on our website, and we'll do some public outreach, business outreach, specifically along the US 50 corridor in the coming month. We've also kicked off our process to update our next UPWP. So our next year Unified Planning Work Program, we're in the middle of our 2-year UPWP, but our funding goes from year to year. So we're in the process of working on an amendment for our UPWP to update for the new funding. Looks like through all the adjustments over past years, we'll have about 60 to 70,000 more the next fiscal year that we can spend on planning activities. And just to note that, UPWP activities and that those funding sources are planning dollars only. They can't be used to reconstruct or even build any sort of project of any kind. So they are planning dollars limited by federal legislation to do so. So we're working on that, and I would expect a UPWP draft in April for adoption in May, as well as our funding agreement. I'll touch on a couple of things related to public comments. The Office of Traffic Safety, we were made aware, has released a grant or beginning the grant process for educational outreach. We applied for and received this grant last year. I believe Carson City did, and we're doing educational outreach for traffic safety. They've updated that again in this coming year, and so we're going to pursue probably a grant under that Office of Traffic Safety, and that's specific to education, outreach, things like that, not necessarily infrastructure, so more of that education component. I wanted to note the yellow disabled passes for Jump Around Carson are available at the Carson City Treasurer's Office. They're available at Jump Around Carson Administration Office as well, and I will check with the library to see if they have any, but they should be available at anywhere passes are sold. Our current passes are sold. We don't issue passes at the Senior Center. Only the free senior bus pass is available at the Senior Center. And then next meeting, we are looking at a TIP amendment to incorporate some projects that will be discussed at the Regional Transportation Commission meeting in either this, probably next month, but just look forward to a TIP amendment in the coming month. So that concludes my Transportation Manager's report. I'm happy to take questions.
I was there at Transportation Lobby Day, met everybody, and stayed there for the growth in infrastructure and saw all the folks, and I think it was a very good event. I think I'm glad all staff was there. It wasn't just Chris, so it was a full-blown CAMPO effort. Any other questions for the folks here? All righty. Chris, you're up again next, 6B.
I have nothing further to provide. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. Let's see. On this part, I wanted to ask, let's see if we have any input from NDOT or Lyon County for Douglas County, just general updates that might be of interest. You want to start, Rebecca?
Certainly, thank you. I just want to add a little bit to the crash data. Since it was the end of the year, we did get some figures. They are subject to change for 2024 because some are still ongoing. And if somebody was hit at the end of the year and there might be a fatality, those numbers could potentially change. However, we did see a 5.6% increase in crashes compared to 2023. So as we mentioned earlier, that is very alarming. We represented in that increase 412 fatalities on our Nevada roads compared to only 390 in 2023, which was one of our deadliest years. And we're just continuing to go uptrend in that. As I mentioned, motorcycle and pedestrian fatalities increased. Pedestrians went up by almost 5% during 2024, and motorcycles increased by over 28% during 2024 compared to 2023. So there is an epidemic in that particular vulnerable road user, and we're looking at what we can do to address that. Especially, we do have a through the Highway Safety Improvement Plan and NVACs, there's a motorcycles group. So if anybody's interested in being on that committee, let me know, and I'd be happy to hook you up with the correct people to get you on that. One positive takeaway, unrestrained drivers for those fatal crashes did go down almost 6% last year compared to the previous year. So that is one positive trend that we are looking at as well. Chris mentioned Transportation Day. Unfortunately, I wasn't here to enjoy it, but I did see a great video. I believe it's on our NDOT website if anybody wants to see it, and it was well done, and I believe Chris was also in there too, so that was nice to see. To the point made earlier about outreach and education, typically every year we have a Nevada Moves Day. That's a day to celebrate walking and biking to and from school. It typically takes place in March. So for the month of March, NDOT is working with our Safe Routes to School partners or any local advocates that want to get out and model the way, walk and bike safely. I don't know what day they're doing it here in Carson City, but I know that Scott's always on top of that with Safe Routes to School, and I appreciate all of his hard work that he does. And then to take it one step further, May is typically Bike to School and Bike to Work month. So if anybody's interested in participating in Bike Month, a lot of education goes out through our active transportation program, and our staff is fully staffed right now, which I'm really happy to say because we haven't been fully staffed in that section for a while. And they're doing everything they can to help get the word out on safety and looking for folks. The other thing that really helps is when we're out walking as adults, if we use the crosswalks, we're safe, we make eye contact, because when kids see us misbehave, if you will, they kind of see that and they follow us. So it's important when we're walking and biking to also abide the rules. And again, I like to say be a role model, whether you're walking or biking. And then drivers, we always ask them to look for pedestrians, make eye contact, especially when you're leaving your home in the morning and coming back from work. There's kids that are also taking the buses to and from school, and we forget about that. So be mindful of that. The other update I wanted to mention isn't particularly here in this area, but it may affect you guys a little bit with the I-80 widening. As you may have heard, NDOT got a grant to widen I-80 from Vista to USA Parkway. NDOT is currently in the NEPA process, which is an environmental and preliminary design stage of that project. And we hope to have this wrapped up by summer. That includes a lot of public outreach and stuff. So if you're more interested in that, I can continue to update you on that as it comes through. And then I mentioned the HSIP project is doing a call for projects. And I just wanted to say those applications are due by March 16th. So that deadline is coming up. And eligible projects, I just have a list here. I'll mention a couple. Anything that's related with bicycle and pedestrian facility improvements, intersection safety enhancements, roadway safety improvements, traffic calming measures, lighting up grades for improved visibility, guardrail barriers. There's a lot of different ones, and these are specifically for reducing serious injury, crashes, and fatalities. So that goes to the earlier comments as well. And with that, I don't have much. I just want to add, since this is a new thing that you're asking us to update, and I'm really happy to do that for you. If there's something specifically you'd like me to bring, let me know, and maybe give me a little heads up, because I have to sometimes do research and ask around, but I'm happy to be as open as I can and bring you information that you find that's valuable. So thank you for that opportunity. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. I had asked Sandra, since NDOT gives regular reports in Reno and Las Vegas, we'd like to hear what's going on that affects CAMPO. Because at some point, you'll have a new strategic plan, right? You've had consultants working on that for a couple of years. So if there's anything in that that would affect CAMPO, we'd definitely like to hear it. Okay. John, anything you want to add for Douglas? Anything from Lyon at all?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank Chris and Kelly for taking the time to sit down with us out in Lyon and listen to our concerns and our challenges, and appreciate that time, and looking forward to working with you folks. We're seeing a lot of increases in horse accidents again, vehicular and horse, including our sheriff. We told these folks yesterday that our sheriff was in a brand new SUV, had about 60 miles on it, and totaled it in a horse accident. So we've got a lot of anticipated growth out there, particularly in the Dayton area. Highway 50 corridor is a real challenge, particularly through Mound House. We had that one pedestrian fatality last year, as you recall. We do have 3 traffic lights coming in the next 2 years, but that doesn't include the Mound House area. So we're really concerned with that corridor, and looking forward to working with you folks on those solutions. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last item looks like our closing public comment. We have, step forward, Mr. French.
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you, Commissioner Kesnell. I'm sorry, the last name is going to make it hard. Kesnelli, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. He ditto. In fact, that was what I was going to say, but I had missed part of the comment by Rebecca Rolander. And I'm not sure she had it on her scope, but it wasn't part of what I heard about the 50 plan, and that it would consider fencing and other things related to wild horses. And so you sort of took care of that for me on that. And so ditto again. And I just want to thank you for showing up. These are amazingly odd times for me, because I don't know what to really hope for as far as grants or things like that. I was at the Board of Education, and I got in on the last part intentionally because I had some considerations, personal questions to ask after the meeting. But the main thing is, hold on to your hats. As Betty Davis would say, it's going to tighten your belts, or whatever she said. It's going to be a bumpy road. Hang in there. Don't give up on Carson. We have a lot to share, and we have the right to ask for representation. Thank you very much.
Any other public comments at this point? All right, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting, and we'll take a 10-minute break before RTC.
time for the Regional Transportation Commission meeting. It's called to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schudy,
Here.
Commissioner Novak,
Here?
Commissioner Maloney,
Here.
Commissioner Dodson. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do opening public comment. Mr. Martinovich, did you have opening public comment? Oh, I thought you were on the sheet over there. Oh, Chaz wants to. Wrong one. I saw the, yeah,
Both last names do begin with M.
they do.
Good afternoon.
And they're both C's, CMs. See, watch out. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the RTC. My name is Chaz Macquarie. I'm a Carson City resident. As is probably no surprise to you, we face a crisis in funding for pedestrian and bicycle safety facilities. The Trump administration has frozen over $3 billion allocated to infrastructure projects that support walking and bicycling, and has threatened to eliminate key programs like Safe Streets and Roads for All and reconnecting communities entirely. I mean, chopping them off the block. Congress took action to fund these projects, to fund Safe Streets and more connected communities through the bipartisan infrastructure law. And the administration needs to stand by those funding commitments. US DOT has given states until February the 18th as a deadline before they start eliminating entire funding programs. That means billions of more dollars for walkable communities could vanish overnight. So the federal transportation programs that the Trump administration seeks to cut provide a huge benefit to the public. They fund sidewalks in small towns like Carson City, and they allow our children to walk to school safely. I'm asking the RTC and the Board of Supervisors by extension to contact our congressional delegation, Congressman Amodei, our senators, the governor, and ask them to resist these harmful cuts to federal funding that Congress has already approved. So to make it clear, Congress has authorized these programs and funding for them, and the administration has just cut them off and threatened to eliminate them entirely. And that is just unacceptable in my opinion. So I ask your help in trying to fix it. Thank you.
Sir, any other public comment? I think Denny was signed up. I'll wait 2 more seconds and then we're moving on. No one else? Okay, then we're going to go to agenda item 4A, which is approval of our minutes of January 8th. Any corrections or changes needed? Nope. I'll accept a motion for approval, please.
I move to accept the minutes from January 8th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. We're now on to agenda item 5A, discussion and possible action to certify to NDOT our total mileage of Carson City's public roads as defined by federal regulations for highway safety funding, and identify total mileage of improved roads by Carson City for the purposes of our motor fuel taxes. Ms. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner. State law requires a public hearing in which the roads maintained are identified and presented. This item serves as this hearing. The Carson City road mileage has been updated for 2024 to reflect the acceptance of road mileage from Little Lane Villages, Emerson Cottages, and Blackstone Ranch for a total increase of 0.99 centerline miles for a total of 304.9 centerline miles and 304.32 centerline miles of roads eligible for motor fuel tax. The public road mileage is shown in Exhibit 2, and the motor fuel tax mileage is shown in Exhibit 3. If approved by the RTC, staff will submit these new totals to the accompanying GIS feature layers, reflecting these new totals to the Nevada Department of Transportation.
Does any member have a question? Okay, no. Is there any public comment on this item? I'll bring it back up for a motion, please. Mr. Dotson.
I move to certify the total mileage of Carson City's public roads and the identity and mileage of roads maintained by the city as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We're now moving on to agenda item 5B, discussion and possible action regarding contract 253000268 for Alta Planning Plus Design, Inc., to assist in the update of the Carson City Safe Routes to School Master Plan with a total not to exceed amount of $110,000. Good evening, Scott. How are you today?
Great. How about you? Thank you.
Give us a little bit of what we're going to do this year.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Bohemier, Western Nevada Safe Routes School Coordinator for the record. When the current plan was developed, it included all the elementary schools and middle schools in town looking at safety improvements. Since then, the federal government has allowed us to use Safe Routes funding for high schools. So we want to include the high schools, Carson High School and Pioneer, in that plan. And we'll also be including the schools in the Stewart community, as well as looking at places like the community center, Mac Center, library, places that the students go to before and after school. Staff applied for the SS4A grant and received that grant. The RFQ went out September 26th. We received two
Responses?
two responses, thank you. And the committee chose Alta to help us with the plan.
Just in general, so we just heard public comment from the other CM, from Jazz. Have we received any notices or anything that Safe Routes to School is in danger? Has the state,
Not that
have we
we,
gotten any feel that any of those
no, at this point,
grants are on the
we feel
chopping
that,
block?
we did talk, so as for the SS4A grant, I can say we did talk with the FHWA today, and grants that have already been given are okay. It's anything moving forward at this point. So
So
at
it's
this point,
new
we look like
release
we're
of
good to go.
awards.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody, member, have a question?
Yep.
Greg?
Question. Scott, I know you've been doing a good job. I'm guessing some of these folks in the high school have heard your pitch in previous grades, right?
Yes.
And the other thing that I wasn't quite sure about, there's high school students who drive. Does this cover anything that they're involved with, or is it just non-drivers?
It'll cover, so last year we did a circulation study at the high school. So we'll obviously be looking at that again, that, will include the drivers, student drivers especially. But most of this will be looking at vulnerable road user and trying to make it safer for the students that are walking and biking to school. But we will be looking at all aspects of the transportation there.
Lucia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Safe Routes to School funding, does it cover private elementary schools and charter elementary schools? Can you remind me? Do you know?
So, yes and no. There's been talk back and forth with that, kind of along the same lines as school bus stops. So we do work with some of the private schools here in town. But there's really nothing clear set that says yes or no for
Okay.
that. I guess the best way to put it.
The reason I ask is because there's roughly 450 or 500 elementary school students at Carson Montessori, which is a charter school within the Carson City School District. And if there's any ability for us to include them in planning efforts moving forward, I think it's important. There's many kids that walk and bike to school up there, and it can get really dangerous.
Sure, yeah, and I can definitely look into that. We can bring that information back to you. I'll do some digging and find out.
I was just curious, yeah.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
Any other member have a question? Okay, seeing
Madam Chair.
Chris, the other Chris, the other CM.
Chris Martinovich,
I don't know how I
Transportation
looked at that
Manager.
wrong.
I just want to clarify one point for the record and for everyone else's benefit. This program that's funding this particular contract is called the Safe Streets and Roads for All, Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. It's a federal program under the infrastructure law that was mentioned during public comment, that was discretionary program we have to apply for. We have you have to be awarded it, and you execute an agreement, and it's specifically separate from the Safe Routes to School program. We're just happening to use it for updating our Safe Routes to School master plan. But that's not to say the Safe Streets and Roads for All program couldn't be used to build roads. It can, in fact, be used to build roads, and we've brought back to the RTC in the past a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant to do upgrades to Fairview and the area around Empire Elementary, and we were not successful in winning that. And going forward, we've targeted this program, Safe Streets and Roads for All, for potentially projects like North Carson Street and things like that that can improve those corridors. But I just wanted to clarify that we're using this particular grant that we received, $125,000 in federal funds, to update our Safe Routes to School master plan, separate from the Safe Routes to School funding. That is a more secured funding, formula funding that comes to NDOT and through to CAMPO year over year over year. It's not quite the same as the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to try to clarify that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Ann, come on up, Ann.
Hello, I'm Ann McQuarrie, and I'm here to support this item. Just a personal story. Last spring, my driver's license was temporarily suspended due to a medical condition. So for 3 months, I used my bike and walked everywhere, basically everywhere I needed to go. And every time I went out, I noticed what progress in enhancing bicycle and pedestrian safety and accessibility Carson City has made in the 37 years we've lived here. So when I read about this item in the Nevada Appeal, I thought I just had to come and show my support of it, because I think this project and planning this project will continue that progress and will continue to make our city safer and more accessible for those who cannot drive, especially children and teens and youth. And then just looking at it in the context of what Ms. Capular from NDOT said, that pedestrian accidents were up 5% in 2024, and this plus education is how we're going to prevent that. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Do you have any other? Okay, I'll bring it back up here for a motion. Ms. Maloney.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you, Scott. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 5C, which is discussion and possible action regarding determination that M4 Engineering is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder pursuant to NRS Chapter 338 for the Carson City Multi-Use Path Project, and to award contract 253000299 for the project to M4 for a total not to exceed $1,305,905. Casey, any highlight on this project that we need to know about?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Casey Sylvester, Transportation and Traffic Engineer. The only thing I'd like to add to that is just to note that this project is entirely funded with TAP funds, and so the local contribution to this is only $65,000.
Isn't that something?
And that is all.
Does any member have a question? How about we just comment, hooray? Yeah, or something, right? That's okay for us to say too. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back up here for a motion. Who would like that honor? Mr. Dotson.
I move to award the contract as presented and authorize the Public Works Director to approve expenditure of the contingency if necessary.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're now moving to agenda item 5D, which is discussion and possible action regarding the submission of a grant application to the Nevada Aging and Disability Services for a non-competitive continuation subaward grant in the amount of $96,500 for fiscal year 2026 and subject to a $14,513 local match to support our Jump Around Carson Jack Senior Bus Program, and authorization for the transportation manager to execute the grant agreement as well as any future amendments to the grant regarding extensions of time or changes. Marcus Myers, have you got something to add on this one for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Marcus Myers, Transit Coordinator, Carson City Public Works. I think you pretty well covered this item. I would like to add that if approved, this program does allow us to provide free unlimited rides to seniors on our fixed route system. Additionally, I think it's worth noting that these ADSD grant dollars are eligible to be used as local match towards our FTA grant funds that Jack receives. With that, I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does any member have a question? No, it's a great program that lets them, right? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll accept a motion, please. Ms. Maloney?
I move to approve submission of the application and to authorize the transportation manager to execute the grant agreement and any future amendments regarding extensions of time and changes in funding not to exceed 10% of the present amount.
A second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We're going to move to agenda item 6A, which is the Transportation Manager's Report. The other CM in the room, Mr. Martinovich.
Thank you.
I know, huh? CM 1 and 2. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding to the Transportation Manager's Report, it was discussed during the CAMPO meeting, and I'll bring it up here. It's more pertinent with this board, the RTC, regarding the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funds, HSIP funds. We are planning to, as staff on the RTC, bringing to this board in March, potentially 3 projects for HSIP funds. Our 3 projects tentatively are funding for the Fairview College Parkway pedestrian safety project that was discussed a couple of months ago. Funding for improvements along Solomon at Carson High School, Fremont, and Seeliger that were identified not only in the local road safety plan, but also in the Safe Routes to School master plan. And then we're tentatively thinking about bringing funding for Curry Street as well, additional funding for Curry Street. It was identified in the local road safety plan, and there are a number of safety features there. So it's another way we can bring more federal dollars in and save a little bit more of our local dollar on that one. Those are the 3 we're focusing on. We do have a meeting with NDOT. We had some questions about some of the requests and some of the requirements. So we have a meeting with NDOT scheduled next week, which will clarify hopefully our answers so that we can bring a better package forward to you all in March. I do want to note that one of the requirements of the HSIP grant application is that it has to be in an approved safety action plan, such as the local road safety plan. The project has to be identified in there. Moving forward with updates to the Safe Routes to School master plan, one of the elements was to make sure that is a action plan compliant. We'll be able to use that in future HSIP requests once that's all updated and completed. So we won't only have the local road safety plan, we'll also have the Safe Routes to School master plan, equally safety action plan compliant documents that we can now cover the majority of Carson City with potentially HSIP funds. So that's the strategy there, and that's just kind of how it all ties together. Changing subjects here, we met with Central Federal Lands on our Ash Canyon Flap project. We've scheduled a scoping meeting, an in-field scoping meeting for early April. So we'll be meeting with them to discuss the specifics of the project scope. We're going to walk the site, coordinate with some of the needs, and hash that out with them as to what are the final limits going to be, what are the final elements going to be of that. Following the scoping, they'll develop a formal grant MOU, and that'll be brought forward to the RTC, and that'll outline the final dollars, the final scope, the final limits, all the final requirements. So I anticipate that late summer of this year. I should have mentioned this during the CAMPO item, but I'll mention it to the RTC as our pavement survey continues. Our consultant, Applied Pavement Technologies, has completed all of their work. They've completed that last fall, and they are nearly ready to present the initial round of results, the PCIs on all the roads. That'll come to staff first. We'll see how does it look compared to what it was in the past, compared to surveys over the last few times we've done this. What's our real world? Does this make sense? Then we'll package that up, and ultimately we'll present that probably to the CAMPO board, as Douglas County is highly interested and have been participating in those activities as well. So that's been a good project, and it's on schedule for completion by the end of March. And those are the items I wanted to highlight under this item. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now move to agenda item 6B is our December street operations report. Mr. Martinovich, any highlights?
Our street operations report, December was a relatively quiet weather-wise month, so we were able to continue to do sidewalk and crack sealing and pothole repairs. You'll also note that our street crews put up our Christmas decorations in downtown, so you'll notice that is listed on the second page, page 202. We're continuing to address the potholes. They're continuing to grow. I think this past storm, we've seen a number of potholes pop up just in the last couple of weeks. So I know they're running around out there filling those, and they're going to continue to do that going forward. That's what I have on this item. Thank you.
Would you thank the crew on the Christmas decorations and also for leaving them up for mostly the month of January? I think they looked spectacular and they did a great job, but I think the lighting, especially around our sense of place at night, just wow, really illuminated that project. But please give them I know it's a lot of work at a short amount of time that they're trying to help do that project. So just, again, give them a big thank you.
Chris, I'd like to shout out to the street operations folks because I used the Carson Connect to report a couple items and they got right on them. One was a sign knocked down. The other was more concerning the pedestrian crosswalk on North Carson where Grocery Outlet used to be, where we have the pedestrian push buttons. That light was out, the overhead luminaire, but it's an NV Energy item. So there's only so much Carson can do, but it was forwarded to NV Energy. So if we do a future analysis, complete street of North Carson Street, I'm sure we'll be looking at lighting around the whole corridor. But thanks to everybody.
Ms. Maloney?
I just wanted to thank Rick Cooley and Justin Tierney and their crew. Our street got brine today for, according to my neighbor, the first time in 25 years. And so coming up to the storm this weekend, whatever you guys are doing, we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on then to agenda item 6C, which is our other reports. Mr. Martinovich. Our diesel report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to bring Casey up, but before I bring Casey up, or while he gets situated, I just want to bring your attention to the final page of the packet page 227. I put this in here as a comparison to continue to just kind of document and present changes over time with funding and expenses. So this is an expense item that I pulled. I pulled the Roop Street widening project back from 2005. This widened Roop Street from Washington north to Winnie Lane, basically. And I pulled some bid items that were pertinent and comparable. It's a little bit difficult given the age, but comparable bid items for projects that we see here now. So for instance, saw cut and remove asphalt pavement and base. In 2005, the awarded bid item was $1.06, and these are other awarded bid items for various projects more recently. So you can see the price change on that one, and as well as all of these other ones. So it just kind of wanted to document that the changes in price over 20 years. I presented last month the changes in revenue over 20 years. We haven't received 300% more revenue, but our costs have gone up 300% just for these particular items. So I just wanted to highlight and note that as we continue to get information out about our road system. And I'll turn it over to Casey. Thank you.
Casey.
Thanks, Chris. Casey Sylvester, Transportation and Traffic Engineer. All right, we're going to go through all the active transportation projects. All right, first we have the Roop Street Rehabilitation Project. Consultant design is underway. And I believe we have 30% plans in for review right now also. District 3 East 5th Street Reconstruction Project. Construction is complete. Retention is expected to be released in February.
Did it come in under budget or just like right on then? You're going to release the retention. Do we Did we save 10,000, 20,000?
That is a great question, and I
Oh.
don't have that number in front of me. I can probably track that down and get that to you, but I don't have that handy. Do you have
We
anything?
dipped into about half the contingency.
Yeah, I'd like
So
to
there's
see
a
the
little bit.
final, whenever
Yeah.
we're gonna final and close and take it off, I'd like to see the final, just.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah.
And we have a
Not that
couple.
10,000 matters, but for me, I'm like, yay, we got 10,000 more to put back into another project. I think that's what I'm interested in, so,
Yeah, we have a couple other projects that'll come up for later, and we have those numbers for those
Okay.
projects.
thank you.
East William Complete Street Project, design is complete, utility agreements are finalized, right-of-way phase is complete. The city will advertise the projects for construction bids in February. I believe it advertised yesterday. I did not confirm that this morning, but it was expected to. Carson City multi-use
Jason?
path. Yes.
Excuse me. I was wondering, we're showing the start date for construction in the fall of '25. Is that, seems like it's a long period if the project's advertised now.
More than likely, it'll start construction in late summer.
Moved up a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how the bids come in. I might need the 10,000 from the other project. I'm scared when you see them. I'm scared.
Right.
Go ahead.
Carson City multi-use path improvement and rehabilitation project. Construction contract is pending award at this meeting. We already talked about that earlier. Construction is expected to begin in late spring. Appian Way traffic signal and intersection improvement project. 100% design plans are complete. Project documents have been submitted to HUD and are in review. The project will be ready to advertise upon completion of the HUD review. Winnie Lane reconstruction project. Construction is complete. Retention has been released. This project will be removed and $202,925 of VNT infrastructure funding will be returned to the VNT infrastructure fund account.
There's one. There you go. More than my 10,000. Ooh, I like it.
West Carson Vulnerable User Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. Staff will complete 90% plans by June of 2025. A cultural resource investigation is ongoing. Public outreach continues for the project to discuss improvements with individual property owners. District Pavement Improvement ARPA Menlo Drive Project. This was awarded in December and construction is expected to begin in May. District Pavement Improvements ARPA Districts 2 and 4. Also awarded in December and expected to begin construction in May. District 1 Carmine Street Rehabilitation Project. Consultant design is underway. The evaluation of drainage alternatives are underway. Presentation of results for those drainage alternatives will be made to the RTC board in early spring. District 1 Lampa Lane Preservation Project. Construction is complete. Retention has been released. The project will be removed and $36,879 of regional transportation funding will be returned to the Regional Transportation Fund account.
We're up to 238. Okay, keep going.
District 1 College Parkway and Airport Road Pavement Preservation Project. 90% design is expected to be complete in March. Staff has been coordinating with property owners for ADA and drainage improvements. District 1 Gonai Road Rehabilitation Project. Geotechnical investigation is complete. The intersection analysis recommended the completion of a compact roundabout. That improvement will not be included in the rehabilitation project. In-house design is underway. District 2 Little Lane Rehabilitation Project. The 30% design was completed in January. District 2 Stewart Street Preservation Project. 60% design will be completed this month for review. District 2 Fairview Drive Preservation Project. The 90% design is in review. District 2 Fifth Street Rehabilitation Project. Consultant design is underway. 60% submittal is expected in late February. North Lampa Multi-Use Path Extension Project. The in-house design is underway. 60% submittal is expected in May. And lastly, Curry Street Complete Streets Project. Staff will begin negotiating the design contract with consultant in February and expect to bring the design contract before the March RTC board. And that is all.
Do you see pricing or bidding starting to come down a bit or stabilize? Where our engineer estimates, are things starting to align on bidding, or you see us still far apart? Or
I think that we have done a good job in the last year that I've been here of estimating our projects around where they're coming in at. There has been, in some cases, the bids differed a little bit more than I would expect, but nothing earth-shattering, and we seem to be coming in about the right level.
and we're able to, I haven't seen you have to come to add money to any project really, because we can't meet it within the contingencies. So you see that? Yay, nay?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. I think that what we're seeing are prices still generally increasing. I think our engineers' estimate have caught up with the increase. So we're able to plan a little bit more further out, more accurately than we were even a couple of years ago. We are still surprised occasionally. A lot of our projects have small quantities of work, meaning it's a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. Some of our larger projects, and we saw this with Menlo Drive, where we're reconstructing the whole street, we're tearing out large portions of curb and gutter, we're reconstructing the whole section. We're getting a little bit better prices when we have more, buy in bulk. It does save some dollars. And so that's one of the things I know when we start thinking about District 3 coming up this June, we prioritize those is our fewer but bigger projects a little bit better than more spread out smaller projects? Can we get actually more done by doing 2 big projects versus 3 littler projects? So we're going to be considering that, and that'll all come forward to the RTC. But in terms of dollars now, I think we are still seeing some increases, although they may be tapering off, but I'm
Hesitant to
we
say
don't
so.
know for sure.
I was just hoping.
In terms of budget, we do move things. If we have a savings somewhere else, we'll move the dollars around as needed. If we're 10, 12,000 short of awarding, we'll move things around to make it happen. We want to award projects. We want to deliver projects, and that's our goal. We've reduced contingencies from time to time, 8%, 5%, things like that, to make sure we can meet that budget. But so far, we're fingers crossed, we're still okay.
Any other member, any questions?
Chris, one of the things when you look at the details, and Casey's done a good job, some of these projects have a lot more than pavement. You have a lot of water things, underground utilities, and you're using other money for that. But at least you're doing it all at the same time. Maybe it's hard to bid those, but at least you're doing a comprehensive look. So thanks for that.
And I will note as well on that point that when we do design, whether they're in-house or consultant, we split those costs. So if there's water design costs, we're not charging the Regional Transportation Fund or the V&T Infrastructure Fund. Water and sewer are paying for their design. Water and sewer are paying for their construction. And so we're even starting to do that more with utility adjustments. On Fairview Drive project, you notice there was a line item in there for wastewater funds, and so they're going to help pay for utility manhole adjustments to the finished grade. And so looking and coupling all those dollars is going to mean we're spreading those transportation dollars a little bit farther, even if it's $10,000 at a time.
I think it works. Okay. Yes. All right, then we're going to move on to final public comment for RTC. Come on up, Mark. Sorry.
Good evening, Mark Costa, Carson City residents. Very glad to hear in the report that the survey results for the PCI is on schedule and going to be coming out in March. That's very important, I think, to find out where we stand. Another thing, I was looking at the crews here and the transportation operations. It looks like they did a lot of work, and particularly in street repair and maintenance. And I was wondering if we could go ahead and draw some type of comparison between the work that they did in the PCI for a given area, if, certainly filling these potholes and street patching, would elevate the PCI in particular areas and make things better, without having to go to contract or going out to bid, and have them do this or report on how they're doing that and how it improves the PCI and the travelability of a given road or network. I think that would be very useful information that we could have, and that may affect some of the projects involved. Because I think we're in hard times for money. There's been across the country free spending of dollars, and you have a classic case of more dollars chasing fewer goods or chasing the same amount of goods. And we see that in like what Chris reported with the costs of materials being 3 times higher than what they were before a few years ago. And we can all see what happens when we go ahead and buy something at the grocery store or somewhere else. I think that's going to happen, and we're going to have to find ways to go ahead and improve our situation and get the job done without having to rely on large amounts of money being made available by the federal government or by the state, because it won't be there, and our dollar just doesn't buy as much as it used to before. So, I'd be interested in seeing, because I'm sure that all the work that they do and the patching that they do on my street when our streets failed helped, in the particular area and improving the quality of the PCI. There's still a lot of work to be done. I see a lot of wide cracks near where I live and on the roads that I travel routinely throughout Carson City. So I think there's going to be a lot done, and a lot needs to be done with fewer dollars from outside help. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other public comment, Mr. French?
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. I really appreciated all the updates. Mr. Solino, I got that wrong, but Casey, I'm pronouncing the last name incorrectly. I apologize. Well, no apologies. Anyhow, I would like to ask under the 18th item on the what's in the works and where it's at. It wasn't brought up, and I've talked to Chris Martinovich, and there is a list of rich ramps for ADA compliance. There are a lot of ramps that have areas that I wouldn't be able to get even with my walker, and luckily I'm not using such now. The steepness, the sinking of the dotted go here and sidewalks and roads, the street elevation as to the ramp doesn't make it smooth. And I know you're working on the list, but I didn't hear it mentioned in where we are on that, unless it was mentioned under a category that I'm not aware it's in. So I didn't hear ADA in that list of what we're doing. And if I need to be directed at what section that's been put under the 18 items mentioned, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment? Nope. Okay. Well, then we are going to adjourn, and thank you all for a good meeting, and have a good evening.